Today we're going to make some item specs so that we have something to put into our bank. We'll start by opening our README spec file on the server side where you can follow along. We're going to start in the server side. We're going to start by creating 4 fields. These will be item icon ID, which will be a type integer, item texture, which will be a string, item type, also a string, and our item quantity max, so we know how much is in the stack, be an integer. Next, we will copy these 4 to the client side on each one. Then we will create our server-side classes. Will be item spec. First, we will start by making some classes. We will make item spec. This will be archetype data. We will also make item spec oracle, also data type. Before we add any parents or fields, we're going to copy them to the client. Okay, once those are copied in the item spec, we will set up a parent class of base spec and then add it. Then we will add in some fields. The 4 fields that we made: be item icon, item texture, item type, and quantity max. We'll also add in 2 that are from the other one: display description and display name. Next, we'll go to item spec oracle. We'll add in a parent class of spec oracle. And we'll go to the client side. Open up our client side DOM. We'll have our classes that were copied in. Item spec. We will add a parent to the class, base spec. We will also add our 6 fields, just like the ones that are item spec on the server side. Just add those from our client side copy. Item icon, texture, type, quantity max, display description, and display name. Then we'll go to item spec oracle. Here we add 3 parents: the spec oracle, the obs subject, and our collection ordered set. Next, we will start with the server side and we'll open script on them. Here we'll just change our default to item. And 1 location on the server side. Next, we'll go to our item spec oracle. Open that one. Here, we'll add back item spec to the valid list. Here, we'll set an item spec. Again, here, here, and here. So there'll be 4 changes in this one. Next, we'll go to our client side. Start with the item spec. Open that script. This one has the spec oracle. I removed some of the comments that were in. We can also do a copy paste from our NPC spec oracle. And then we just go through and change the NPC to item. We'll add our different fields that we're going to add into our spec class. And there'll be a few new ones. This one will also have a method called getItem icon grid size as return value as class XY. Icon size as class XY equals icon X will be 42, icon Y will be 42. These are, and return icon size. These are just base numbers for now. Here we still have the get my name and display name, set and display. The description will be the same. Here we're going to add in icon ID. So we'll have get my icon ID and return B icon ID. And the setter with the icon ID, the spec key will be the same. Get my type, pretty much the same there. We're going to add get my texture with B item texture. Again with the set on the item texture. And we're going to have the quantity max with the B quantity max. Get and set. So the integer will be on the quantity, string will be for the item texture, and the type. Our icon ID will also be an integer. Okay, with our invoke, we're going to look for NPC and change it to item. I believe there are 2 spots for that. The rest is pretty much the same there. On our build spec, we're going to change NPC to item. 2 places there. Our create from spec, we can change that one, though we're not going to use it here. Then we'll go to our other script, which will be the item spec oracle. Open the script for that one. And these, I took out most of the comments. I replaced NPC with item in 4 locations. Okay, then we can compile and submit those 4 scripts. Next, we're going to go to the client-side DOM for enum we're going to create. Here, we're going to create an item type. We're going to give it what type of item it is, and the value it's going to have is craft, gear, and mission for now. We'll be adding more at a later time. We're also going to create 2 more fields for our client side. These will be B item spec cache, and this will be a particular type lookup list indexed by ID of class item spec. So we're going to have a bunch of item specs, and the ID is going to determine which spec we're looking at. So if we have the first ID is number 1, it will give us all the class information for the first item spec. We put in a 2, it'll give us the second one. That'll be our lookup list. Our other that we're going to create is called B quantity. This will be determine the amount of items in a stack. It'll be of type integer. Okay. On our client side, we're going to look for player, and we're going to add a field that we created, item spec cache. This will have all the item specs when we download it to our client side. Next, we'll create some more classes here. These will be our item spec editor GUI, which is type GUI control. It will be the editor for the item GUI, the background window. Then we have our item spec editor main panel, just like the other one. It will be of type GUI control and have a parent class of GUI panel. And the GUI editor will have B GUI node collection interface window for parent. Okay, no fields in this one, and the main panel will have a field, NPE node. Okay, next we will click these, and don't believe that one has a script, but this one does. Here we'll click Open Script for the main panel, and we can copy paste the NPC part into here. We'll change a few things in that. Here we have the same spec key, name, description. We're going to add set my icon ID and have spec get my icon ID. Then we'll have set icon, and that'll be based on that same get my icon ID. Then we have the quantity max, and that will be based on spec get my quantity max. Our list boxes will have get my type box, similar to the other one. Here we'll put in item type for the enum value. And in the texture box, we're going to have the drop down part will be me get icon textures. So we're going to create a little list of them. Then we have a populate the value, or to set the first value in there, spec get my texture. On our property editor submit, we'll have the name and the description like before, along with the spec key. We'll add set my icon ID with me, get my icon ID, and node set my quantity max with me, get my quantity max. Our drop down box will be get the type, which should be similar to the other one, and our set texture, which will be similar to that one, using me texture box drop down value. Okay, these will also be similar. Double check that your panel name and your value name are the same or similar when you create your GUI. Here, to get name, get description are pretty much the same thing. We just leave the names the same. Spec key should be the same there. Icon ID, we're going to add an icon panel, and this will have an icon ID. Get my icon with an integer returns me get my icon ID box, which is up here, the point to it, the text box, and it'll return a value. Now with the set icon ID, we'll have an integer coming in to set our get icon ID value into that box. Quantity is very similar. We're going to have a basic panel in this one, and it's going to be the quant box. Get quantity integer and get quantity box. Quantity, the integers, and get there. Our drop downs will be get my type, they're also on the basic panel with type. And our get texture will be on the icon panel. This one up here with the texture. These are all part of our advanced feature we're going to add in for the next tutorial. The mouse here, we're only going to have the check for an icon button. And if we have that icon button, we're going to create a GUI starting at none default layer item icon chooser GUI. This is going to be in the next tutorial for making this one. GUI equals none, we're going to create it and build it. Then we're going to have GUI set icon chooser parent me, GUI center control over me, and GUI create model dialog me. Next we'll have our icon section. This will be called from the actual chooser script that we write. Set selected icon chooser ID based on the icon ID that's coming in. This will return a Boolean value. We have me set my icon ID, which will be down here, and then me set icon. These both require icon ID coming in and we will return true that we did do something with it. Here we get icon as the GUI. We're going to look for our value on the main panel in the icon panel section with the item icon. Next we'll have a set icon. This will be based on our icon coming in. Variable icon will equal me get the icon, so it sets up the pointer here. If it does not equal 0, we're going to set a value into it. Icon set icon ID with that icon that comes in. If we have a 0, we're just going to skip over this, otherwise we get errors. We're also going to set textures equals to the icon get icon textures. This will be another script we're writing for the items. And the icon size will be equal icon get icon grid info. Then we set the texture by calling icon set icon texture. This is part of the base engine. And it'll have textures, icon size, and icon ID as input. Another part that we're going to, this is a new add, but probably wasn't in the original, is icon hover state presentation is going to equal icon default state presentation. Normally it's just a panel, but when you hover the mouse over it, it seemed to flicker, so we added this part. Next, we're going to save the texture from our list. Set selected texture. We have texture coming in as a string. That will be a spec as a node ref equals enp node. That's our saved value. And spec set my texture. So we'll set it directly onto that spec info. And that'll save the texture coming in. Here's our list that will get icon textures is going to create. This is what we set up. Now here I just use one that we all currently have in the engine. It's GUI inventory icons 1 version 2.dds. We add that to textures. These are just the names, and these are pretty much identical with the difference of 1, 2, 3, 4 up to 10. And we return textures. We're going to have 10 textures going in because eventually we have a bunch of items for most games. Okay, this script also works with our other script that we created earlier. That's in spec, my spec key, which we work for the items. And this is the script that we'll work through. So it will be calling these functions in this script here. And this script is the main or the parent class in order to set these others up to call right here populate spec editor fields. Okay, next we'll start adding it into the base section so that it'll call our scripts and make sure they're working. So we'll open up the client side with our utils, spec Oracle utils class methods, and here we're going to add in our items. This is pretty much copy paste of the NPC and then just change our values. We get item here, here, and here. Then we have our copy paste from the get all of them or verify that it works. We copy this section here, paste it into here, and we have item here and here. It verifies that our item spec Oracle is legal. And then our get all classes, we'll call this function here. Copy paste, change to item, and it gets the item check here, says it's a valid one. Then we can compile and submit this script. Okay, next we'll come down here and we'll look for our creating the server-side prototype. So we'll just copy it, paste that line. Then we'll go to our console window. So we'll close these up. And in our console window, we'll paste that. We'll change our NPC to item in 3 spots. And then we'll hit enter on that one. It'll create our prototype for us. Okay, next we're going to create the GUIs for these. There's a few different ways to do it. We're going to show the way through script. Okay, we'll go to the create new GUI XML and we'll type in the name of the GUI that we're going to create. This will be the item spec editor main panel. And we will create that. I currently have it, so we'll open ours. And what we'll do is basically we'll also open the NPC one. We'll copy, so Shift key, Control End, and then Control C to copy it. We'll come back to our created one and we will paste it in, Control V. We'll compile and submit. The first pass through, it will show that it needs a merge. Now you can try to merge it, but what I like to do is just abandon that and then copy paste it again, compile, submit, and it will work the second time through. Next, we just look for all our versions of NPC that are in the original here. We hit there, so we go copy that, go into our item one, and we'll hit that, replace. We change all NPC to item, replace all, and that will change those over. There's not too many of them, mostly in the title up here, or the first line where it creates the actual different values. There's a few other ones down here. So copy paste that one. Then we will go into the create a new one for the GUI part. I'll open mine. Here we have the item and the NPC one. We'll copy paste our NPC, go to item, and paste it in. Again with our compile, submit, and abandon the changes, paste it in again. And we'll change our NPC to item. This one is pretty much the same. We're going to change a few values, such as our size of 600 by 265 instead of 255. Otherwise, they're very similar. After creating the base value, on our list here, we should have those pop up. And we'll go item. And we should have our item spec GUI and our item spec editor. If they don't show, hit the refresh button. And that'll should make them show. Here for our item spec, we make sure it opens. Should have the same values as the other one. And our size in there. Then we're going to make some changes in the main panel. On this one, our info will pretty much stay the same. the icon panel is going to be new. So we're going to add a panel to the icon, to the main. Just look for panel, add this one here. And then we'll start adding some others. Here, this is just a label. Okay, we'll set our panel size. It's about 200 by 115. And our position at 1695. So it's big enough to hold our information we're going to put in. This is one is just a label. Be 50 by 20, down position 5. Our value here is going to say icon ID. And that's going to tell us basically the info when we need it. Next, we'll make a little button. This is just a basic button. Size will be 100 by 26, position 80. And we'll have a text value in the button. We'll set choose icon on it. Okay, for our icon ID, we're going to have a text input box. This will be 45 by 20, not too big. It just has the value of our icon in there. Position will be 1035 underneath the icon ID label. Next, we'll have just a simple text label. This will be 70 by 20, position 75 down, and value of texture is just not going to change. Just tells us what this box is. Next, we'll have the texture box. This is a drop-down box, size 200 by 20. When we change this box, don't forget to change the drop-down list also to 200. It's down at position 95 or near the bottom of the icon panel. Next, we'll make an item icon, and this one we're going to have to hold on a little bit before we add this in. We're going to need to make the B item icon in order to put it here on the place. See what I mean by the hover going over and it's not set up? That's our flicker. Then we're going to add a small value to it. That'll also be when we make our icon. Okay, in the basic panel, we're going to have label. This will be type of item. And here is our drop-down box, 120 by 20, and position 100 over. And our quantity is going to say stack max. And our quantity box is just a text input box, 40 by 20, position 100 by 30. Okay, then that should be save and close the editor on that one. Okay, here's our B item icon we're going to create. So we'll use the create down here, and it's going to have our item icon. We're going to need a class for that. So in our client DOM, we're going to create a class B item icon. It will type GUI control, and it will have a parent class of B GUI icon. And we're going to add those values to it, similar to the other ones. The fields we have: B item type, quantity max, the quantity, our display name, and our spec key will be in that class. Those will be the values that are saved on the items that move around. Okay, after we make that, we'll click Open Script on it. We're going to eventually make that script. And here we're going to create the icon for it. So we'll make a B icon, create new B icon with the same class, and then we're just going to add a label, call it a mount. It'll be a small size, 44 by 11. Text value will be 100, just so you see it. Our icon will be 44 by 60. Position 2.2, so it's not quite centered. Our texture is going to be the inventory icons, the first one on the list. Okay, our default position will be 00, size 69 by 129. And our hover state will be, that's probably why. Let's change the size on that. Copy, paste in. And we will save and close that. So now that we make our main panel, hovering over it fixes it, because the hover is the same value as that. Okay, in our server-side script, our item spec. So we'll look for item. We're going to now create that function before. Now that we have the item spec added in. Here we'll start with public function, load item spec data, takes a count as an ID coming in, and our lookup list indexed by ID of class item spec. We'll have account as a node ref of class, ePlayer account equals that account coming in. Our info will be set to this lookup list. Then we get variable oracle equals spec oracle utils system node, get oracle from type item spec oracle. Spec is a node ref of class item spec, spec info as class item spec. Now this one's going to be a node ref. That's going to be pulling in our info from the oracle, and the spec info is going to be a class we're creating so that we can send that info somewhere. Well, then there's key as an ID. We'll start at 1, and then we'll run into our loop that says, well, key does not equal 0. We're going to keep getting keys from our spec oracle. What this will do is grab the next key in place starting at the first one. It's building a list of all our spec keys and saving all class info for each key. So spec equals oracle get spec by key. If spec equals none, we've got an invalid value, and then we will break. Now this key here is based on, at the bottom, key plus equals 1. So we're going to keep accumulating it to the next one. And as soon as our spec doesn't have, say there's no spec there, we're just going to leave out of there and return that info from the good ones. Here you got spec info display name equals spec display name. Then we've got the display description, the item icon ID, the item texture, the item type, quantity max, and the spec key. These are the values we're pulling from the info and setting them on our class so that we can send this class to our client side. Okay, we can then compile and submit this script. Next, in our client-side script, we're going to player account, ePlayer account class methods. We're going to create a remote function. This will save our info from the specs. Call it save spec info. Have our info as a lookup list coming in. Same as list here. As an item spec, the account is a node ref of player account. equals get the account ID, and save it right on the account. B item spec cache equals that info coming in. So we're going to save the whole item cache, which is why the more items in the game, the longer it takes to load those items into data. So you're traveling from area to area, it's loading those specs in. Okay, we compile and submit this script. Next we'll take a look at a server-side script, player character. Okay, we'll add 2 lines to our trusted function, get player info. And along with the load windows function that we're sending in, we're also going to get our data. Variable item info equals item spec class methods, calling function load item spec data, sending in the account. And here we'll call a client account, player account class methods, save spec info with that item info that's created. Okay, then we can compile and submit this script. Okay, then we can close that script and that one. Item specs. Okay, we'll work on later. Item spec and the panel. Okay, we're going to open a GUI with the hotspot in it. And this part, we're going to copy the NPC spec oracle, paste it, and we should have our same thing here. We're just going to change the NPC to item. In that spot, this spot, and just the 2 spots for this one. And that should create our hotspot. We'll then compile and submit this file. And we should have our Control G to bring GUIs up, F5 key. And here we'll hit the rebuild hotspot interface. And we click on our tools and we should see the item spec oracle underneath the NPC here. When we click that, I've made a few items already. Here we're going to have a few things we want to display, so we're going to right click where it says up near the spec key, and you'll click Edit Headers. These will enable our field name to be shown at the top and the value that it's currently holding. So if we put in our display name, enable that one, and the item type, it will show those 2 up there. We click OK, and we've made an armor, sword, and helm, and the item type gear, gear, gear. So we'll look at one of these. And our spec name is armor. It's just armor for a test item. Spec key will be 1. The red value we won't be able to change. We have this as red also. Copy, paste that one over to there, and then change the size. Choose icon will be in the next one, the next tutorial, so that we can show you how to get this icon here. Here's our textures. This is currently from texture number 2. This one here, it's not on this sheet. These will be the ones we'll be able to open. Type of item, we have our 3 values in there, and our stack max currently is going to be a 1 on this. And then we click OK, and that'll save the values for us. Okay, that one. We go to item spec again. Now, when you edit these, you can edit as many as you want, but in order to make them so that your character has them, what you then need to do is log out and log back in. That will update our spec values so that our character can use them as actual items. It will eventually make this part here, I'll show you. It'll be coming up. Okay, so that when we click on our choose icon, it will pop up a texture sheet. That'll be in our next tutorial.